You weren't the commissioner at the time that a lot of this evidence came out. The coroners described some of particularly the awards being handed out by the TRG and some of these text messages as both disturbing and grotesque. What was your reaction when that evidence became public? Were you surprised?
I think that description is probably completely adequate. Disturbing is certainly what I would call it, and grotesque, and it's got no place in our organisation. And the fact that it did exist and the fact that it was permitted and fostered is just not acceptable. And like I've said, it has no place in our organisation, and it won't have any place in our organisation into the future. That's confronting, absolutely. It's easy to get lost in that, I suppose, and potentially creep into that denial by saying, that's not me, that's not how I act, that's not how I carry myself. But if we're serious about it and we look at racism in all its forms and the definitions of what it is, it's quite clear from the evidence that was borne out that has existed in our police force, and it has existed in all its forms in pockets from time to time within this police force.
Does it still exist in the police force?
I think we'd be naive to think that it doesn't in some forms or another, or it doesn't have the potential to creep in.
The coroner has found systemic racism and evidence of, and you're not shying away from that at all. But how has that finding and your response to it been received by police officers?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, this incident from the beginning was polarising for the Northern Territory Police Force. I think it was polarising for police across Australia. I'm probably not receipt of a lot of negative comments in that. I wouldn't expect people to come up to me and say, that's outrageous, Commissioner, your stance on this is completely wrong. But in saying that, I understand there's probably some feelings of hurt amongst the police force. There's probably some feelings of denial, and I can understand that. But overwhelmingly, our members do a good job. And I understand that some of our membership will be saying, that's not me, but that's why we're on this journey to roll out racism, anti-racism training, so people can understand what it is, they can recognise the various forms of racism, and they can work out what to do when they see it, or actually realise that it probably does exist, even if they're not the people perpetrating that.
You've talked about a lot of changes that have happened within the police force already over the last almost 6 years.
Yep.
Can you explain to me what some of those changes are?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the Northern Territory Police has been on a journey of deep reflection and change, probably starting with a change of leadership. We've had significant change of leadership since November 2019. We've had 2 substantive commissioners. We now got an acting commissioner. We've got completely different cohort of assistant commissioners. Basically, we've had a nearly entire change of our executive leadership within our police force. But that's not stopping at the executive level. We've had some of the highest attrition rates that we've ever seen across the police force in the last 5 years as well. So we've had generational change, I suppose, within our membership of the police force. We've also reflected deeply on our recruitment policies and our selection process, and that's not just about who we accept into the police force, but how we vet people for their attitudes, how we vet people for their cultural competency, how we vet people for their resilience.
You're acting police commissioner at the moment. Is there any idea yet when there will be a substantive commissioner to be able to lead the force through all of this change that is necessary?
I guess that's the million-dollar question, Mel. Currently, we're subject to an independent review on police recruitment for executive positions. That's being conducted by Acting Justice Alan Blow. I don't have any visibility on when that might be completed, but I know that the intent is for that review to be completed, and then the government is going to consider that report, table that report, and then undertake a recruitment process for the Commissioner of Police. So I really don't have any indication on the timeframes around that or how long that would be, but my real hope is that it's soon.